DRC, right? Huge country, as big as all of Western Europe, right? To get to Kinshasa, the capital, let's say to the east of the Congo, it'll take you most of a day, Jalas, because at least the last time I was there, the infrastructure was horrific. It was, but up until 10 years ago, there was only 500 kilometers of roads in all of the DRC.
500 kilometers.
That's
the
all.
whole country.
Imagine the size of Western Europe. It was all jungle. It was all rivers. It was all, it was impassable mostly. So people
How are you guys navigating?
You fly.
You fly
You either fly or you take the river, a steamboat on the river, on the mighty Congo River. So one time we're flying east to this town called Bukavu in the east of Congo. You've heard of Goma, right? Where there's a volcano eruption.
Just down here. Goma is not far.
It's not that far. So now in that area of Ituri, there's a town called Bukavu.
Bukavu.
Yeah, but to get from Kinshasa to Bukavu, it takes almost one full day, bouncing on little aircrafts that, fly, let's say, from Kinshasa to Matadi. Matadi, by the way, is where the mighty Congo River opens up into the Atlantic Ocean. There's a huge waterfall over there in Matadi, huge, which experts have said if they were to harness the electricity at the waterfall,
At Matadi.
it could light up the entire sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow.
The entire, you know how you fly over Africa and it's really, really dark?
Yes.
And you get to the Middle East and you see lots of light?
Yes.
Matadi, the waterfalls of the mighty Congo, could be harnessed to light up all over Africa. And by the way, I think they're working on it, huh? Either South Africans or Chinese. There's some company working to do phase 1, 2, 3 of this Inga Dam. It's called the Inga Dam.
To light up Africa.
All of Africa.
From Matadi.
Just like that. Anyway, we're flying to Bukavu. We fly, first to Matadi, and then we go to Mbujimai. Mbujimai, by the way, is where all the diamond fields are. Very famous place. When someone tells you they're from Mbujimai, that's where the diamonds are. And we kept flying throughout the day and ended up in Bukavu. Get off the plane, and now we're driving into town. And we had heard about this one tiny clinic, right? Tiny clinic run by one doctor, a local Congolese doctor. His name was Dr. Mukwege. Dr. Mukwege. It'll come to me. He was running this clinic. And in this clinic, Jalas, this is where I tell you, God had forgotten this place. There was 700 women from the ages of 7 years old to 70 years old. 700 of them, eh?
3 generations.
All of them raped by men in uniform. All of them. They're being taken care of by this one doctor. One local Congolese doctor and maybe a handful of nurses. As we were there at the gate, and obviously we had to get permission to get in because this is a very sensitive topic, we saw this woman who had just been brought in by wheelbarrow by her family members. She's in the wheelbarrow. We asked them how far had she come. They said we've been pushing this wheelbarrow for about 25 miles. It's 40 kilometers. That's Thika. In a wheelbarrow. You've been raped for the last 3 days. This is the only mode of transport to this place you've heard of. We get the doctor. He comes out and we explain who we are. He said, look, the world needs to know about this story. Nobody knows. We've never heard of it. The world needs to know. So Dr. Dennis Mukwege, Dr. Dennis, takes us in, asks the women for permission because we're filming, and we start filming. I'm telling you, Jalas, the most harrowing stories ever. Bone-chilling. One woman told us how she had been raped by 15 men for 3 days. Her and her sister. Her sister couldn't take it after 3 days. She died in the house. This one made it. Was brought over to the clinic. Now the doctor was patching her up. And what happens after they are patched up? They are sent right back to their villages What happens when they get back to the villages? Same thing, repeat. It's the cycle of madness by men in uniform. So we did the story. There was one place they all congregated. Once they got better and better in this clinic, they would congregate in the dining area. And in the dining area is where I saw maybe there was a God somewhere. They started singing songs. They're singing. These are women in major physical and mental pain, anguish. And they are singing songs. They're saying, the translation of the song was, "We shall not be moved. No matter what happens to us, we shall not be moved." Very bone-chilling stuff. So when I was writing this script, the anger in me, the journalist in me just went out the window. And I said, this one we're writing on emotion. And I wrote, and I let the women tell the stories. And we walked through this place. And Dr. Dennis Mukwege explaining to us each and every step. It was incredible. When the story played that night, I understand in the newsroom in Atlanta, there was not a dry eye in that room. People were seeing this for the very first time, wondering what the hell is going on in this place. Immediately afterwards, doctors started volunteering to go to Bukavu. People were sending everything from teddy bears to medical equipment to IVs to clothes, packing containers and sending them to Bukavu because they thought this guy is the true hero. And the story played for like 3 days continuously. Top story, 3 days. Mass rapes in the Congo and what one man is doing to turn it around. One man and his team of nurses. So then I thought, what? Wow, this story had a really big impact. What shall we do? So Atlanta calls me and says, "Hey, Jeff, in order to really do justice to this story, can we get some kind of government response? Can someone respond? I mean, who are these military? Are they bandits? How do they go about doing all this stuff?" And I said, you know what? The only person who can really make an impact or say something that'll make a difference is the president. They said, yeah, well, you know him. Why don't you call him? And I said, look, you just don't pick up a phone and call a president. They said, look, try what you can. So I picked up the phone and I called Joseph Kabila. And sure enough, he picks it up and he says, "Hey, Jeff." I said, "Mr. President," he says, "Yeah, I saw your story." I said, Did you see it? What do you think?" Well, he says, it's tragic. I said, "Look, Mr. President, can we come and talk to you about it? If we get a reaction from you on camera, at least it'll show that you're doing something about it." He says, "Look, I'm in Lubumbashi. If you can make it in Lubumbashi in the next 2 days, I'll be here." So there we are, in Bukavu. No flight, no regular flights. I mean, you're just waiting for the next plane to come. Bukavu, now we work our way back. Mbuji Mai, town after town, end up in Matadi, from Matadi back to Kinshasa. We get to Kinshasa late that day. Flights to Lubumbashi have all gone. We have to wait for tomorrow afternoon. Spend the night in Kinshasa, come back the next morning to Njili Airport, look for the flight that's going to Lubumbashi because we have a deadline. The president's only going to be there one more night. Finally, afternoon flight comes, made it to Lubumbashi, get out of the plane, rent a taxi, zip over to his palace. Sure enough, we find him there. He's still there. He hasn't left yet. He's leaving later in the evening. And it's about 4:30. We find him in a gazebo, just chilling. And he said, "Jeff, I told you it's a big country. It takes a while to get around, doesn't it?" I almost asked him, "Look, yeah, whose fault is it? 50 years you people haven't built roads." But I didn't, that wasn't the time. So I said, "Mr. President," so he said, I had my laptop with me and the story of the women that I'd been playing around the world. And I pressed play and I said, "Mr. President, I'm looking for your reaction." I pressed play. And he watched the story. Again, he had seen it, but he watched it up close again. The story ended and I said, "Mr. President, what if this happened to your twin sister?" Because he's a twinner. He has a twin sister. "What if this happened to your twin sister? Or to your mother, or to your daughter? What would you do?" He looked at me, man. He looked, and I felt the chill all the way down to my bones. He looked at me and said, "Jeff, you don't want to know what I would do if they did this to my family." I said, "But Mr. President, it's happening in your country. You're the head of state. You're the commander-in-chief. How can this happen?" And then he said, "We'll do something about it. We'll make sure we make arrests. We make sure we put these people in prison and we throw the key away because this cannot happen in the 21st century. And I said, Mr. President, it's easy to do. Jail a few, kill a few, and that's it. People will stop. And, you know, obviously it's more complicated than that, but at least we got a reaction from someone who saw it firsthand. And it was tough. I mean, you know, a few years later, we visited Dr. Dennis again, and still the same thing, the same cycle. Young men, young women being raped repeatedly by men in uniform. I mean, that place is like the Badlands sometimes. Eastern Congo, it's like the Badlands. It's like no man's land. It's rough, it's tough, and like I said earlier on, maybe it's a place like God forgot. Did you ever watch a movie called Tears of the Sun?
Yes.
Bruce Willis.
Yes.
When he's turning around, they've gone to rescue these Italian missionaries, and and one of the missionaries says, "No, I want to stay here because God brought me here." And then, as Bruce Willis is leaving with the other missionaries, he turns to Bruce and says, "Go with God." And Bruce turns around and says, "God left Africa a long time ago." You have to wonder sometimes.
And that is
a story a day.
The Hot Breakfast with Jeff and Jelano.